Morning friends, welcome back to 9 Little Aussies. I'm Chrissy and I am just out in my garden this morning and I thought I'd show you everything has just popped after all that rain. So our little raised bed here is going gangbusters. I've got a bit of curling on these so they're obviously missing something. These eggplants, the leaves are curling. I don't know if you can see that. Still got a bit of leaf curl happening there. I'm not sure what that's about. But other than that, it's looking pretty good. My strawberries still haven't popped up. I used strawberry, rootstock, and they haven't come up. I've never used that before, so I don't know. I don't know if I did something wrong. The other thing that has popped up, it's still so muddy. You probably can't really see, but it's still really muddy. Little baby gingers have popped up. So that's really exciting. I was a bit worried that they weren't going to come up because I hadn't seen them. And the other thing, but they've popped up. I guess that rain helps, hey. And over here, we've got more babies. Little baby zucchini along here. Now, I'm not sure. What did I put there? I put a seed tape. This could be carrots. Lots of little babies popping up. Some over there. And over here, I keep getting these weeds out. Just putting some yummy worm juice on there. But the tomatoes are all coming along. They loved the rain. Little Mississippi beans, pink eye beans coming up through here. Some flowers, nasturtiums growing. Wow, these guys have taken a leap in the last couple of days, these tomatillos. They've got something eating them. I don't know if you can see, there we go, on the leaf, and it's eating these eggplants as well. Something's having a feast. Some things are doing better than others. A little banana tree, growing. The cucumbers have loved the rain. And that row back there is okra. These little okra babies. I don't even need to water these again yet because it's been so wet. These are the cream peas. Let me get that weed while we're here. And these beans are coming up. Everything's just loved the rain. Some more seeds have sprouted along here. I think this is some more baby bunching onions. And the potatoes are starting to turn brown. I really think we might need to get in here and harvest some of these just come back down to this area out the back here, and some of these I just wanted to see, and yes, they are. Can you see that? That's a little baby, maybe a cowpea. And over here there's some more. So some of those ones the kids and I planted last week. Oh, oopsie. And I don't know if you can see, but all across there they're sprouting. So that is actually really cool. There's okra that we planted, but also those cowpeas from Jess, and we sowed other things in here too, sunflowers, and I can just see them popping up everywhere after all that heavy rain. So that is really cool. Okay, I thought I would show you how these front gardens are doing. So these are the ones that were dug up by the puppies. Well, we don't really know who dug them up, but that is where my suspicions lie, with those puppies.
The puppies didn't do it.
And they're actually doing okay. It's a bit of a secret garden. We don't know what's where, but look at all this sweet Alice coming into flower. So pretty. And I'm still battling grass. I'm pulling grass every day.
Is this grass?
Yeah, these ones here, see?
This grass?
Yep.
Yeah.
And this, but this, it's all coming up. So that is exciting. It survived.
What survived?
The garden survived. Some more sweet Alice. It's so pretty. I love sweet Alice. It's so delicate and beautiful.
All the ones.
Yeah. Now I've been battling this. Fire ants have gotten in these beds, but it has been so wet. I haven't been able to do anything about the fire ants. Maybe when it dries out. The next couple of days are going to be pretty hot. I think it's going to be up in the 90s, which is, what is that, late 30s, high 30s, mid 30s? I don't know. It's going to be warm anyway. But I'm continuing to just pull grass every time I come out. That's just from the hay. But there's a lot in there that has done well. Considering how it looked after it got all dug up, I'm pretty happy with our little surprise garden. Okay, I am back inside now in the kitchen. I'm just going to put a big pot of beef broth on. I've done chicken broth on here before, but I haven't done beef broth, and I did have someone ask me about it. So I'm using these beef bones from our friends down the road that have a beautiful regenerative farm, doing all the good things, all the beautiful things on their land, providing nutrient dense, awesome food. So that is the farm at Bald Hill, and these bones are from them. So I've got 2 packets. I think it'll take to fill this big stock pot. I just wanted to mention too, when you're on a tight budget, this is something I have done over the years many times. You get bones. In Australia, they would sell soup bones or offcuts of lamb or beef, and often they still have quite a lot of meat on them, and they're selling them really cheaply. So I would get the bag of bones that still has quite a bit of meat, and before I bake it into broth, I'll bake it in the oven with a bit of salt on it and just pull off whatever meat is there. And oftentimes you'll get a full meal out of that, or at least half a meal, or some cold meat to put on a sandwich. But it is a way to sort of salvage as much meat as you can from a cheap source. Now I know this is even better because this is really good grass-fed, grass-finished beef. And often I've done this a couple of times with meat bones from these guys, is I've popped it in the oven and there's been enough meat on there to pull off for at least lunch to add to a meal, even if not for a full meal. So it's just another way to extend your food budget. All right, so I've just popped all the bones in the pot. I'm not going to bake them today. I just don't have time for that today. I'm going to add, now I mentioned in the chicken broth one that I don't tend to add vegetables. It really changes the flavor of the broth, but I do with beef broth. I feel like it enhances the flavor when it comes to beef broth. That's just my personal choice. Feel free to go ahead and put veggies in whatever broth you like, but that's the way I do it. So I'm gonna add some celery, some carrots, and I keep a bag of offcuts of veggie scraps. So like the ends of onions, tops of celery, ends of carrot. At the moment, I've just got a lot of onion ends. So I'm gonna add some of those, handful of those in, as well as a little bit of carrot and celery. All right, so I'm going to put in just one carrot. Don't peel it, just chuck it in. Some ends of celery. This is just the root part. And a handful or two of these onion ends. Pop that down there. Just gonna add a couple of bay leaves in there and some black peppercorns. A couple of pinches, I don't know, that's probably about, I don't know, 6 or 7 peppercorns, I don't know. Just a few, it's a pretty big pot. Just gonna fill this up to the top of the pot with filtered water until it comes up over the top. So I'll leave it, it won't quite cover the meat because this is gonna cook down and the bones are frozen, but just to about an inch below the top. All right, so covered that almost with water. Now that is, like I said, that'll cook down. So I'll just put that onto, I'm gonna put it on high until it comes up to a boil. I'll pop the lid on, and then once it's boiled and it's sort of cooked down a little bit, I'll turn it down onto low for the rest of the day. Hey friends, it is later in the day. What time is it? I don't even know, I think it's around 2 o'clock. Anyway, it is bubbling away, our beautiful broth. And I just remembered that I forgot to put apple cider vinegar in. I usually put just a little dash, and the vinegar helps draw all the minerals and goodness out of the bones. Doesn't matter that I forgot it earlier, I'm gonna pop it in now. It's gonna cook again all night, so it's still got a long time for, that means my bread is done. It's still got a long time to draw all the minerals and goodness and yumminess out of the bones. So I'm gonna pop some apple cider vinegar in right now. Hello, it's the next day. So this has been boiling now, gotten quite dark and goldeny looking. It has been, well, not boiling, it has been gently simmering really for almost 24 hours. So we're going to, all I'm gonna do now, the final stage is just separating all of the bones and everything out and popping it into some jars to put in the fridge. I should just mention, you could at this point, if you wanted to, you could salt it, because remember, with all the ingredients I put in, I have not salted it. But my personal preference, and it is just a personal preference, is I decant it into jars, I keep them in the fridge. There's usually a really nice fat cap on the top of the broth, and when it cools in the fridge, the fat rises to the top and solidifies, and that provides just a good seal, which actually makes it last a lot longer in the fridge. I choose to not salt it until I'm going to use it. So when I pull it out, whatever dish or soup or casserole or even cup of warm broth that I'm preparing, at that point I'll salt it. Now you absolutely could salt it now. I think really the only reason I do that is it's just more convenient, but you could salt it right now if you wanted to, and then it would already be done and you wouldn't have to think about it. But I just tend to salt it on a dish by dish basis depending on what I'm doing. I have my strainer and my stainless steel bowl. I start, actually, the first thing I do, and this is just my little way of doing it, you don't have to do it this way, is I scoop out the large bulky things and pop them in here, and then I'll drain the rest through the strainer. Okay, so I'm literally just going to, I wish you could smell it. It smells so delicious. Just that warm aroma of the beef and the onions and all the goodies is just, you can just smell that it's good. So I'm going to scoop out with my somewhat broken slotted spoon. I'll get another one, but for now it's still working. I'm going to scoop it out and I'm just going to show you. I don't think I can do this with one hand. Hang on. Maybe if I switch hands. Scoop that out, let it drip a little and pop it down in there. These big bones out. See that big one? It's just all the meat has come off and it's all been soaked and simmered and all the goodness leached out of it. As I do this and scoop this out, a thought occurs to me that I think is worth sharing. The slotted spoon has a corner broken off it, but it's still perfectly usable. Is it as convenient? No, I guess not, but it still works. And I think back to both my mum in her kitchen and my granny in her kitchen. And there were many occasions where there might have been a utensil or a vessel that was used that had the handle broken off or had some damage to it, but it was still used. And I think we live in this culture now where everything is so insta-perfect that we think, oh, well, that's broken, I have to throw it away. And I just want to encourage you that, and I hopefully this is just common sense, and everyone, I would hope a lot of people would just think like this, but I worry that perhaps we don't. We're losing this ability to just think, well, it's okay, I can still use it. I don't need to order something new if what I am using is not perfect. We can make do and save the pennies or save the product. You know, some of these things that are plastic and we want to use them as long as possible. And I don't know, there's so many different ways to look at it, but we don't have to have a perfect looking kitchen for it to be functional, or everything in brand new spanking order for it to be workable. I just wanted to mention that I just did so I've strained it out here. We've got the broth left here, mainly broth. There's a little bit left in the bottom. And I have just picked through and still got this meat off. Now, it might not look hugely appetizing, but there's good protein in there, and these are really good well-grown grass-fed, grass-finished beef bones, so I don't want to waste that. So I will keep that. I might fry it up with some eggs for breakfast with a bit of sauerkraut on the side. I might add it to another meal, or keep it for when, because as I have mentioned, I'm not doing dairy right now, but the rest of my family are. So if I've got a meal that's got a lot of dairy in it, I am trying to have just a couple of things stuck in the fridge that I can eat. So the point I'm making is it can still be used. It doesn't need to be wasted. So I will save that little bit of meat and put it in a container in the fridge. I'm going to just ladle this out and put it over here into the strainer. Need to move that a bit closer actually. I could pour it, but I've done that a few times and it's kind of splashed, so I've taken to doing it this way. I've strained it all out of that pot into this big bowl, and now I'm going to just be popping it into some mason jars. Now you could, at this point, if you wanted, you could strain that through a finer sieve or through gauze or something, but I don't feel the need to do that. That's completely fine with me. It might have some small particles in it, but it's strained out all the big stuff. I mean, this is what we strained through, so nothing bigger than that's going to get through us. Yeah, nothing bigger than that's going to get through. And so I will pop it in the fridge. If you really, like, if that's a high priority to you, then you could definitely strain it a bit more. But for me, that's totally fine. So there it is, all finished. We've ended up with 7 and a little bit quart jars of broth. They will go in the fridge and stay there until I need them, and that'll probably keep us going for a while. It'll probably be a couple of weeks before I do broth again, or beef broth. I'm almost ready to do another chicken broth, but that'll keep us going for a while with casseroles and gravies and whatever else I might add that to. If you have made the chicken broth, or any chicken broth, or the one I've had here on the video on the channel before, and you compare it to the beef broth, one thing I've noticed is that beef broth tends to be a lot fattier than chicken broth, which is just the nature of the beast, really. But it is interesting. My husband and I were just talking about the fact that sometimes the criticism of grass-fed, grass-finished beef is that it's not as fatty and it doesn't have the marbling and therefore doesn't have the flavor. But I just haven't found that to be true. I mean, this here, it had quite a bit, and this is down at the level of the bones. So there is obviously quite a bit through the meat as well. And just from my own personal experience, I mean, Dad, he killed all of our own beef when I was growing up. And there was always plenty of marbling. It was very tasty. So I'm not really sure. Maybe there is something to that, but it certainly hasn't been in my experience. And it's really handy having this fat cap. You can see now as the jars are cooling that it's all rising to the top. And what that does is it seals the broth. It helps preserve it. And then it gives you this lovely little healthy fats to be able to bake with. So I will often open a jar, and the jar I'm going to use next, I will just take a little bit of that. Once it's been in the fridge, it goes nice and hard, and you can just slice a bit off and use it in cooking. So if I'm going to fry up some eggs in the morning for breakfast, I'll crack a jar open and I'll just slice a bit of the fat cap off of whatever jar I'm using next and use it on my eggs. So thank you for being here today and coming along as I make a bit of bone broth. I will put down below the link to the recipe that I use in the link to the blog post for that. So you can check that out if you want to. All right, friends, sunshine and raindrops. We'll see you next time.